Hey, what's going on? This is Cooper Anderson from Creating the Sound, and today we're going to check out Dylan's snare drum of the day, which is the GMS 5.5 by 14-inch 10-lug maple snare. The reference track is Two Princes by the Spin Doctors, so that's the sound that we're going for. So let's pull it up. The first thing that I noticed while listening to the reference was that there's a very big gated reverb sound. It was pretty distinctive from the 80s and early 90s, I guess, is when this song came out. So that's what I want to focus on today, is trying to lock that in. We're in Logic, so I'm just going to use stock plugins, and we're going to work off the rough mix that Dylan provided. All right, so let's hear what he has first. So you can hear the snare has that kind of like high-pitched ring to it, which is nice. So you can hear that in the original reference. But let's pull up a reverb and get a gated reverb sound going. So we'll do that by putting the drum track stack onto we're going to send it to an aux. I'm just going to turn this up all the way so we can just be like over the top, and then we'll adjust the volume later after we've locked in the sound. And let's pull up Space Designer, because this is actually an older version of Logic, so I don't even have the newer Chroma Verb, but that's fine. This is probably going to get closer to what we want anyway. And let's try a larger space. I was messing around with this hot plate before, so let's just hear what this sounds like on the snare. Pretty cool. It's a little thick in the low end, so we can throw some EQ on it and take some of the bottom out. Put a low shelf on it as well as a low cut. Maybe filter off a little high end too. Maybe not quite so much high end. Alright, that should do for now. And then we're going to throw the noise gate on there. And this noise gate is a little tricky because there's no metering whatsoever. So you have to kind of use your ears first of all, and also know what the dials do. So over here, threshold, that adjusts when the gate opens. So if I have a snare hitting, well, in this case, it's going to be the reverb of the snare hitting. It has to be loud enough to open the gate. So if it's minus 50, it's gonna open it. Let's just hear what it sounds like. So minus 50 keeps it open all the way. If I turn it all the way up, now the reverb is completely off. We can actually just solo the snare. And as we bring it down, we can find a nice spot where the gate triggers. So right around here at minus 25, that's opening up when the snare initially hits and then shutting back down after it drops back below minus 25. So that's probably a good place to start. And I noticed the cutoff was very quick, so the reverb's kind of going away very quickly. So we can open up the release time to let the gate shut back down a little more slowly, which will let the reverb have a little more decay. Pretty good. We can actually open it up a little more, the threshold, to make it even shorter. And this hold time is kind of like a pause in between when the level of the sound goes back below the threshold and when the release starts to close the gate back down. So that was sounding pretty good at 40 actually, but we'll tighten it up a little more. We'll throw it at 30 and see what happens. And since this isn't the main snare sound, we can be a little more aggressive with our attack time and maybe throw a little bit of look ahead, because I want the reverb to sound super smooth. And like I said before, it's way too loud, we're going to have it much lower in the mix. But we just want to kind of set the levels, the sound first before we set the level of the reverb. And we want to make sure all the snare hits are triggering it. So the idea behind gated reverb is that you have a really big reverb that cuts off unnaturally short. And I think we can actually cut even more of that low end. Since the channel EQ is before the gate, it's adjusting how the gate is opening. So it may or may not be a good idea to throw that on the other side of the gate in terms of the signal flow. But we'll leave it here for now because this is where we have it. All right, that's pretty good. So let's put the full mix back on, and then we'll use the reverb fader to set the level. Because I don't want to use the actual send, since we're dynamically controlling the noise gate. I don't want to adjust the send. I want to leave that at full blast so it doesn't mess with my gate settings. So I'm going to use the return fader after the gate to adjust the level in the mix. That's good. It's still a little aggressive. So we're going to open the release a little more. We can actually throw another channel EQ after this to adjust the tonality of the sound a little more. Let's try a different reverb and see if this sounds any better, because this plate is sounding a little too like thick. So maybe a big room, like this concrete room. Let's try this one, see if this sounds any different. Yeah, that might be a cool sound. We have to open the gate threshold up a little more. This one doesn't have fast enough of a decay on the actual reverb to trigger the gate properly. Sonically, it's okay. Let's try some more rooms, see if we can find anything else. Maybe this metallic room. That one could be cool. We can even try a smaller room as well. Let's try a medium room. Maybe chamber 4. I like that one. Let's put the top end back in on our initial EQ. And let's open up the gate. And we'll low shelf this out even further. Alright, that's cool. So for a quick rough mix, let's just make the kick a little punchier and then throw some overall tape compression on it and bounce it. So let's hear the kick real quick. He's just using the one mic, the in, oh, and the sub kick. So let's throw the we'll throw the noise gate on this kick as well. Of course, on my other videos, you've seen we use the Sonox drum gate all the time, and now you might understand why that one's much more easily to control, just because of the graphics. This one works, it just takes a lot of tweaking to get properly adjusted. And we can use the side chain, the built-in side chain, to make sure that the snare isn't triggering the gate on this. So let's take the cutoff and bring it way down to, we can even try 230, and we'll monitor that just to hear what we're sending the gate. So now you can see, even on the meter, most of the level is coming from the actual kick. So let's hear that. See, now the snare is not getting triggered by the gate. I mean, the gate is not getting triggered by the snare. When I turn that off, you can hear the snare. And let's put the sub kick back in, give it some bottom end. And we'll throw this gate on the sub kick as well. And then let's compress that whole thing. Let's try the Studio FET. With 70 attack and a quick release. Maybe 50% mix. Throw some clipping on it. So this gate is a little choppy. I think we're gonna bring the reduction up so that it doesn't completely mute the sound. It's just gonna lower the bleed rather than completely removing the bleed, because the gate itself is not triggering as well as I would like. So let's lower this to minus 20, 30-ish. Hear how this sounds. And let's hear that in the mix. And we can throw the enveloper on there. It's kind of like a transient designer. All right, cool. So let's throw a quick little mix on this, and so everything is going through this drum bus. So, but the levels are clipping, so we can use this really quick shortcut, which is just double click up here and load up a channel EQ, and then use this gain knob. Since everything's 32-bit float, there's unlimited headroom essentially. So even if I lower the levels here, I'm not losing any quality. But I won't be clipping my mixer anymore either. The reason why that's important is because I want to make sure I'm feeding levels into the plugins that is not clipping. So since everything is going through here, I want to run this through some TAIP plugin, but I want to make sure that I'm not sending it levels that are too hot. All right, so for our first non-stock plugin of the evening, we're going to try the brand new Baby Audio TAIP, TAIP. So this thing looks pretty cool. I just got it. I haven't really even used it that much, but we can flip through some presets and see if it does anything cool to our mix. That's pretty cool. The drums hot was way too much. Drum subtle is much better. I love that it has the auto gain feature because it's very easy to tell what it's doing since it's automatically adjusting the gain. I love that, but it's a little too grabby on the low end. Maybe we'll bring the mix down even more. And now that we're compressing, which is essentially what the TAIP plugin is doing, we're going to have to bring this reverb down a little bit so it's not quite so obvious. Maybe bring back up some of the brightness. All right, so that's a pretty solid sound. Now let's run all of that through Ozone and send it to radio. That's a little studio joke. All right, so now that I have all the mastering and everything on it, this I can really hear what the gated reverb is doing, and I want to actually open it up even a little bit more on the release and hold time, and maybe mess around with this hysteresis. That's the kind of the direction of the gate. So that will adjust exactly how it sounds. Kind of fine tune it a little more because it's a little too choppy and present. I basically want it to blend into the mix a little more, but still have that kind of gated cutoff. So bringing the hysteresis down definitely helps out a little bit. So that's adjusting where the envelope opens the threshold. So that'll do it for today. This has been the Creating the Sounds snare drum of the day. The GMS 5.5 by 14 inch 10 lug maple as heard on Spin Doctors. Thanks a lot for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel for more similar content. We'll see you next time.